Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Wednesday. You know what that means. It's time for a bonus episode. This time around, we're talking this month in Puroresu. It's been a while since we did it. So I'm sitting down with our friend from across the pond, Arnold Furious. How are you, Arnold?
I'm very well, thank you. We've kind of come a little bit late on this one. It's about 2 weeks into September, so we're kind of going to cover August and other bits.
Yeah, so it'll be August plus. This month in Puroresu, August plus. Sounds good to me.
Even better than August.
Yeah, August plus. Why not? So what's been happening? What are the top stories for us to take a look at?
Okay, so I kind of want to take a look at Big Japan a little bit because they've not really had the best of years, but there is one wrestler in particular that has. Likewise, I kind of want to look at All Japan's tag scene because there's a guy in there that I think is quite interesting. We're also going to look at DDT and the title changes they've had this month.
Right, I know you weren't happy about some of them.
And we've got Takayamania to talk about the tribute show for the currently injured and in hospital with a paralyzed from the neck down Takayama. I want to talk about Morishima again because something's happened, and we're going to do a little bit on Stardom.
Yes.
So yeah, quite a lot to cover.
Yeah, we got some stuff to get through. So let's dive right in. Now, you mentioned something about Big Japan.
Big Japan. Before we started off here, I was sat looking through Cage Match, and they're each company you can go into a little tab, and they've got a list of recommended matches in there under the match guide. And Big Japan. So I started in 2014. They only had 3 recommended matches. They went up to 7 in 2015, and Daisuke Sekimoto, he was in all of those matches. He was on fire. 2016, it went up to 13 matches they had recommended. 2017, they were back down to 8. And this year, they've only had 3 so far. There's a very distinct trend developing there that the top guys there, the focus of the entire company had been these heavyweight guys, Sekimoto, Okabayashi, and a rolling circle of guest stars for them to beat up. And the wheels have come off the train. Okabayashi is injured. Sekimoto has been in demand, so he's been out traveling around. And there's been a couple of kind of experimental but failed title runs in there, which has resulted in a lot less buzz on the promotion. But one area where they have been exceptional is the other half, because they basically have the strong division, which is all the big guys.
Right, and
then
Hideki Suzuki is on top there at the moment.
He is, and he's not really doing well.
Oh, that's not good. He's coming down here just in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be seeing him at Iron Fist Pro, so I'm very excited to be seeing him.
I have an Iron Fist Pro like 10 miles away from my house.
Oh, really? Oh, the promoter will not be happy to hear that. So I've been talking to the promoter.
I don't know which one's there for longer. This one's in like Worcestershire.
Well, this is his first show. This Iron Fist Pro, it's their first show. So
okay,
yeah, and
I'll pass you the details on that later.
Right.
So yeah, Hideki Suzuki, his title run, he had a very long one. It wasn't particularly good, and they ended it and then put the belt on Daichi Hashimoto, son of legendary New Japan wrestler Shinya Hashimoto.
Yeah,
and like he was struggling a lot, but when he started getting good and started having successful title defenses that were really, really like good action as well, they took the belt off him completely unannounced, and it went back to Suzuki. The heavyweight division has not been in a particularly good place, and where they've made up for it is on the other half of the promotion, which is where they do all the death matches. And I don't know about you, but traditionally death matches don't do a lot for me. They tend to be just guys falling on stuff, hitting each other in the head with plunder. They say there's a skill to it, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, well, look, I'm with you a little. I respect it as an art form of its own, but I don't find it as entertaining as I did when I was younger. I used to be quite into it, but yeah, definitely. I respect it as an art form, but it's not necessarily for me all the time. Although that said, I have enjoyed some death matches recently. There was one that I saw live at Wrestle Rampage between Jonah Rock and Tyler Trench, which was quite fun to watch. But yeah, generally speaking, they don't do it for me either.
Okay, so earlier on this year, I got told I had to watch one of the death matches, and I tend to skip over a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I got told, you got to watch this death match. It might be the best death match ever. I was like,
okay.
Yeah, I'm going to check this out. So it was June the 20th, and it was the current deathmatch champion, Masashi Takeda, against Isami Kudaka, who I think you probably know from DDT.
Yes.
He has like a bit of a weird samurai kind of deal, and you might notice his back is just literally covered in scars.
Yeah.
So they have this match, and it's really weird because it's like an exceptional professional wrestling match, like the timing on everything, the high spots, the way, the structuring of it, it kind of built to a crescendo. And it just happened to have a load of violent stuff in it as well. So it's like they took like what would be a very modern professional wrestling match and just happened to do it with a load of broken glass all over the mat. So they were taking these ridiculous bumps onto broken glass, but it was part of like a normal match, if you know what I mean.
Right, yeah.
And now that is a skill, because not only are they having like a great match with phenomenal timing, but they're doing it where every single bump looks ridiculously painful. There's blood everywhere. And it is actually the best death match I've ever seen.
Right. So we'll have to note that one down. That's definitely one for people to check out. So it was on June 20th, Big Japan show.
June 20th, Big Japan. Masashi Takeda against Isami Kudaka. And the reason why I bring it up, because he wrestled Kudaka's tag team partner, I've forgotten his first name, Miyamoto. Yuko Miyamoto.
Right.
He wrestled him in August, and while it wasn't that good, it was the same kind of style. And for me, I think Takeda is taking what has been traditionally seen as like junk wrestling for guys who can't wrestle that well. And he's gone into it and gone, well, I'm actually a really good wrestler, but I can also do the deathmatch stuff, but I'm going to incorporate the deathmatch stuff into my stuff rather than doing the deathmatch stuff, if that makes sense.
Rather than trying to incorporate wrestling into death matches, he's incorporating deathmatch into wrestling.
Yeah, so he's going out there having like a phenomenal match, and it just happens to be a death match.
Right.
Which, for me, it's just a change that has been long overdue, and it's one that could put deathmatch wrestling back on the map. Because there's been a lot of deathmatchy stuff over the past, going back to like ECW, where people would just hit each other in the head with stuff, and that'd be your death match.
Yeah.
Or the whole match is somebody building up to a big spot where somebody falls on barbed wire, and that's the finish. This is nothing like that at all. It's really like a modernization of deathmatch wrestling.
Right.
And it's
so, like, I mean,
super impressive.
Have you seen like stuff that like Joey Janela, Jimmy Havoc, their sorts of death matches? It's more modern than that still.
Yes,
because I cringe hard when, like, I was watching one today actually on the Impact vs UK at Wrestling MediaCon. Jimmy Havoc and Sami Calihan, and Jimmy Havoc did the double stomp onto the thumbtacks, and I feet. I can't even. But yeah, it was. So it's more brutal than those guys do, and also because they incorporate more modern wrestling as well when they do it.
I feel like that's two worlds colliding, whereas this is two worlds meshed together as one.
Right. Okay.
It feels like another level above what. I mean, with all due respect to like Joey Janela, who's a phenomenally entertaining guy, what he's doing is just kind of adding deathmatchy stuff into a wrestling match, whereas this it's interwoven.
So this feels more cohesive, like it's actually like melded together, and it's okay. I'm gonna have to check it out then. That definitely sounds interesting.
You'll have to watch that match. There's some other matches as well that Takeda's had recently. You had one with Jun Kasai in Freedoms on August the 28th that was very good. So he's operating at that standard worryingly consistently. His back is just shredded constantly.
Right.
But,
it's not something that they can keep up for a long time.
No. It's kind of something that I hope, while I think he's the best at it, like I think there is nobody on Takeda's level when it comes to the deathmatch work. I kind of hope they cycle him out of the division for a bit towards the end of the year, just to give him a bit of a break from the abuse he's taken. But he is great. He's so good, Takeda. Apparently completely fluent in English as well, so like he's there to travel the world if needs be. I honestly think he's going to break out at some point because he's so good.
Right. And Big Japan are known for their deathmatch stuff, so it's not too far-fetched to think that, you know, someone could come across this and want to expose this new style of deathmatch to the world, and it could become a huge thing for them.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I think New York is kind of a little bit more liberal with the bloodletting. So if somebody was looking at putting on a different kind of show over WrestleMania weekend, Takeda is the kind of guy that could do that for you. Yeah. And I think if he got on one like a big show over Mania weekend, got exposed to a lot more people, I think he could become a star like overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, WrestleMania weekend does that for a lot of people. Although this year looks different for whatever reason, but that's for another show entirely. Moving on, you said as well, All Japan. There's one person in All Japan that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so Yoshitatsu is the guy I want to talk about.
Okay.
So like he left WWE in, I want to say 2014. And went straight into a feud with AJ Styles in New Japan, which was a complete disaster. He tucked his head on the Styles clash and basically broke his neck.
Yeah.
Spent ages on the shelf. By the time he came back, the entire promotion had basically passed him by. There was him and like the original Bone Soldier, like on the very bottom rung of the company.
Yeah.
And he was just a joke. He was an undercard joke. His confidence was completely shot. He was absolutely worthless, and New Japan just kind of shunted him off. And by 2017, he found himself in All Japan. And the most common reaction, because I looked through tweets to find out why he'd blocked me, but the most common reaction was that Yoshitatsu going to All Japan was a bad move for All Japan because they were gaining somebody who was not in any way valuable. He was just going to come in and just stink it up like he had been in New Japan.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. Like, he
Okay.
started off, he was a little bit ropey, but they've had him tag him with Kento Miyahara, who is like the ace of All Japan. He's their guy. And they've had a series of matches against the Violent Giants, which is Shuji Ishikawa and Suwama. And this series of matches have been like legitimately like All Japan Match of the Year contenders. There was one this past month, which is why I brought it up. It was August the 18th. And Yoshitatsu is in there, keeping pace with the top guys in the company, looking like a genuine star again.
Okay.
It's proof that in wrestling, just because you appear to be done, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are.
No, definitely not. You can have a resurgence as late as 50 plus years old. Look at a PCO.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're never done. You're not done until you're on a slab somewhere, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
So
he was so roundly written off, though, that it's actually like kind of nice to see him like reappear as a star in some capacity,
absolutely.
because he was gone.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he has blocked me on Twitter.
And you don't know why? Why would you? What possible reason could Yoshitatsu have to block you on Twitter?
I assume he vanity searches because he's a professional wrestler. So
Right.
I looked back to see if I'd said anything about him, and at one point I referred to him as the shits. So I think that's probably why. But a couple of other guys have said they're also blocked by him after saying things about him on Twitter. So
Well, there's also like there's block lists as well that sometimes like I've been blocked not by wrestlers but by other figures that I didn't even know existed. So I've never talked about them or anything, but apparently I'd made my way onto some kind of block list for following. Like if you follow certain people, you can be blocked. I don't know. Twitter's the weirdest thing in the world. Twitter makes zero sense to me. I'm lucky that here in Australia, not a lot of people use Twitter, to be honest with you. Most of us don't get it. It's just not a huge thing here. So
it's the same in Germany. When I was over in Germany, like nobody's got Twitter.
yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, what would you use Twitter for that you can't just use Facebook for? I guess.
I don't know. All the people I know are on Twitter. So, but yeah. So
it's good for like live tweeting shows and stuff. So that's pretty much all I use it for. Is when I'm watching a show live, I'll jump on it. But yeah. But getting blocked by wrestlers is somewhat of a badge of honor in some circles.
I'm not really
well
aiming
done,
for it. I'm not surprisingly not blocked by a lot of people, but every now and again. Do you remember Sebastian? He used to work in Progress.
Yeah.
He blocked me because someone posted a photo of me ignoring his match. I was in the building while it was going on, and I'm like leaning up against a pillar, looking the other way with a scotch in my hand. And apparently, he was so annoyed by that he blocked me. So.
That's hilarious. I do remember on one of my old Twitter accounts, like way back, I got blocked. This is when Twitter was relatively new, I think, like a couple of years, whatever. But I got blocked by Lance Storm for disagreeing with his opinion. I didn't say anything mean. I was just like, I disagree completely. That makes no sense to me. Blocked. And I was like, well, that's odd. I don't know. It seems kind of thin-skinned that, but we're getting off topic there.
I'm going to get us back on topic by staying with Twitter. Another person that's blocked me this week was like this random account that was completely defensive of Sami Calihan and surprisingly nobody else. And I'm not saying that Sami Calihan's out had an argument with me on Twitter, lost and then blocked me, but that's what it seems like to me.
Sami Calihan's alt account. All right. You're not going to like this, but I'm actually a fan of Sami Calihan.
Why?
I just like what he does. I like what he does. I like. He's not the most. He's good in the ring. He is. He doesn't have the greatest matches. He's not having 5-star classics on the Meltzer scale or 7-star classics or whatever number stars he's up to now. But he's entertaining, right? Like I watch it to be entertained, and I'm quite often entertained by his antics. The way they spun the whole baseball bat botch into a decent story with Eddie Edwards and his downward spiral and stuff in Impact, and as well the way he's taking groups of guys on the indies, so the Death Machines in MLW and OVE in Impact, and he's taking them and sort of putting them under his wing and lifting them up a little. Like, I care more about these guys because they've been involved with him and he's in these high-profile stories. I don't know, I just find him entertaining. His match with Sami Calihan was a match of the year contender, for sure. His match with Pentagon. His match with Pentagon at Slammiversary was a match of the year contender for me. I don't know. I don't get the Sami Calihan hate. I enjoy his work.
Okay. Where do I start listing off everything I hate about Sami Calihan? For starters, his promos are completely nonsensical. If you ever listen to them, they're just rambling nonsense. I was trying to remember the one. I saw one on MLW television the other week, and he said something that this match was hugely important, but like, I don't care about you or something like that. And I'm like, well, why should I care then?
Okay.
He just has this childish mentality when it comes to cutting promos where he thinks he sounds cool, whereas in actual fact, he's not selling anything. You know, he's not making me want to see a match. He's just rambling and...
But I feel like the rambling is part of the character, no?
I think it's part of the person. I think it's because he has no coherent thought process. I have an issue with his look. I think he doesn't look like a professional wrestler. He's got a poor physique. He covers it up by dressing like a bartender on a cruise ship. His hair looks terrible. His wrestling is just offensively bad to me in every way. He relies on the same crutches for every single match. He does these stupid kicks when he's clapping his hands and slapping his thigh like a Bavarian dancer. Like, he's incompetent. He really is. There's absolutely nothing about Calihan that I rate. Nothing. And the strange thing is, up until a couple of years ago, I kind of liked him. He used to have matches over in the UK for Fight Club Pro with like Trent Seven and like Pete Dunne and guys like that, and they were terrific matches.
Yeah,
he was really good at brawling, and he's gone from that to shtick. And the problem with shtick is you can only see it so many times before you think this is all he can do now.
See, I appreciate the evolution of professional wrestlers in that way, because pretty much all the main guys... I mean, Ric Flair went to shtick, you know? At a certain point in your career, people want to see the greatest hits, you bust out the greatest hits, and that's it. And I kind of understand, and I appreciate that evolution. And so I can always say, like, yeah, his stuff from before was better, but I still find entertainment in what he does, if that makes sense. But I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying.
He can't even clap right. When he's wrestling as a heel, he does this like come on, clap and support me. And I'm like, no. What are you doing? Like, I don't think he understands what he's doing.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's okay. We can have differing opinions here on the B Plus podcast.
But you'll notice I got through that without dropping that C-bomb that I threatened to drop as well.
Yeah, you warned me you were going to, but we got through it. No, you know what? I'm finding that our British contingent here, yourself and Akil, you're a bit of a heel tandem. You come on the show, and you just go heel on all the pro wrestlers, and it's it's entertaining to say the least. But no, that's fine. So Sami Calihan, though, he's relevant because he won the King of DDT championship.
This DDT series of title changes has made no sense at all. They went from Eerie has spent years and years going out on excursion in the United States, trying to prove himself, trying to work his way up the card, finally wins the title, then goes ahead and beats Hiroshima, the guy who he just could not beat in the big important matches. And then what happens? Loses to Sami Calihan.
Yeah. So I was okay with the Sami Calihan loss, and I'm like, I assume he's going to get it back before he heads back to Japan, because he was on a bit of a tour. But then it just went a bit crazy.
Well, yeah, because he lost it. So Calihan jobs it straight back to Eerie like a week later. Then Eerie manages to lose it to Danshiko Dino. And then Dino loses it in turn to Meiko Satomura. So you've got 4 title changes in a month. and I'm really not sure what they were aiming to accomplish with any of it.
Well, the Meiko Satomura one is historic. She's the first woman to hold the title.
Yeah. So I could get that if they went like to her direct, and maybe even if they used Dino as a transition. But why on earth did they put Sami in there for a week? Like, what did that achieve? It was just bizarre to me.
I think it was just to get attention, because so I get all my news from I have an RSS feeder and I subscribe to all the various sites, right? And I don't ever see anything about the King of DDT title on American Wrestling Press, but I did when Sami Calihan won it. When Sami Calihan won it, it got more attention in the mainstream of, well, what I would consider the mainstream of the wrestling press, like the 411s and, you know, the prowrestling.net and all that sort of thing. So they covered it because it was Sami Calihan and it was happening in America. And so because of that, then when Meiko Satomura won the title, it already had more eyes on it. Does that make sense? So I can get what you're saying, where having Dino as the transition makes sense, but why Sami? I think it was just an attention grab.
Okay, but then you've got... I think Meiko would have worked as an attention grab because she's in the Mae Young. So I think that being at the same time basically would have worked.
Yeah, the timing of it, it would have worked on its own. Yeah, that's entirely possible. But I do think it did get extra attention to it. Not that it's, I don't know, it hasn't become like a major story that everyone's talking about or anything. So, but I've heard it mentioned in passing in a few different places. So that's something at least.
I just wish it was somebody else.
Right. I'm just trying to rationalize it. So I mean, I don't even know, what was the tour? Like, who else could it have gone to on that tour? Was there anyone else that has a name that it could have worked with? Because that's the thing, like, your personal feelings about the man aside, Sami Calihan isn't.
It was in Ohio, so like, there's nobody that's a bigger name in Ohio than Sami Calihan working the same trash promotions over and over.
Yeah, so yeah, like, because whether we like him or not, he is a name. He is a recognizable name that you can get that with. I mean, because promotions do that sometimes. Like one of our locals, World Series Wrestling, that they bring over guys. So the World Series Wrestling Championship on one tour went from Austin Aries to Johnny Impact to Brian Cage and back to Austin Aries on one tour. Like, there was a title change on every show.
Well, that's kind of what they're doing here, and I just feel like it kind of devalues the title.
It does, yeah. In a way it does, but then at the same time, I look at it, at least with the World Series Wrestling one, I'm looking at it and I say, okay, eventually when an Australian captures it, because this is an Australian promotion, but they bring over internationals, and they've sort of been building the Aussie guys up, and so, you know, Robbie Eagles got a pin on Austin Aries on the final night in a tag match on the final night of the tour. Robbie Eagles got a pin on Austin Aries. So I'm looking at it long term, and I'm like, when Robbie Eagles ultimately wins it off Austin Aries, for example, then you can say the title was held by Brian Cage, Johnny Impact. And it doesn't matter that they held it for a day. Like, no one talks about that. And so it has this lineage that sort of looks more impressive for the guy who's holding it 3-4 months.
I think a really long, really strong title reign does more for the belt. And you had like Erie's title win was more important because he won it off Takashita, who'd held the belt for over a year. That meant something. Everything since then has meant very little, and I think if anything, it's cheapened Satomura's win because she's won it after there being 3 more changes that month. It feels like it's kind of cheapened the achievement.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a fan of long title reigns and having the title mean something. So, but again, I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here, just trying to rationalize it. But essentially, the title changed hands a million times, and now it's on Meiko Satomura.
That's what's happening in DDT. She's also the Fight Club Pro champion, so she's got a couple of titles that are not so much intergender, but traditionally seen as men's titles. So I think that's an interesting place for her to be at the moment.
Yeah, well, she is one of the best in the world. hands down. Like when I discovered her work about a year ago, I went down a rabbit hole of watching her matches, and I was just like, how have I never heard of this woman?
Yeah,
Like,
she's been incredible for a long time as well. I think it's she's just starting to get popular.
Yeah, she doesn't have bad matches.
Like, she's been great for ages, but she's just starting to get popularized, and it's a shame because she's 38 years old.
Yeah. Well, her match with Killer Kelly on the first round of the Mae Young Classic was the best match that week.
Yeah, no, it was a really good
WWE.
match.
Like, hands down, bar none. So, yeah, it's exciting to see her taking off like that. Now, I mean, Meiko Satomura is a good transition point to move over to Joshi. Did we have anything else to talk about before we moved over?
We did, but we can come back to it.
Okay. So I know something that's big for me this month is the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix. I'm not fully up to date because, I mean, obviously there's a lot of wrestling to watch, and coming off the back of the G1 as well, I haven't sort of dived in and watched every single thing as much as I could. But I'm up to about night 4 or 5, I think, and there have been some really, really good matches.
I was really excited for it when it started, and I just haven't had time to watch any of it. But I'm just looking now to see how the blocks are shaping up, because there was some really interesting blocks set out. Because you had Mayu Iwatani, I think, is probably the established number one talent in Stardom, but she was in the same block as Momo Watanabe, who's kind of taken over Io Shirai's spot. But you also had the young and hungry Hazuki in the same block. So you had 3, I think, potential winners there.
Yeah, and Hazuki is one who's really been impressing me. But also...
she's so good. She's only 18 as well. There's her and Watanabe are both really young.
Yeah, and Momo Watanabe is... I mean, we've already talked about her last month. If people want to listen to last month, so you can hear us talk about her. That she's been really impressive as well. I still cringe every time she hits her finish.
Yeah.
Which is like...
I can't remember. It's called something driver. It's like a running, kneeling, murdering of the opponent.
Well, no, I'm talking about the one that's it's similar to... Hangman Page's rites of passage, but she swings them underneath her legs as she drops down.
Yeah, there's a running version as well.
Yeah, it's insane and brutal, and I cringe every time I see it. But I understand these are little Japanese women for the most part, and they can kind of take the punishment, I guess. But it's not easy to watch. Someone who surprised me though, one of the best matches that I came across in Stardom World, and this is going to be one of my recommendations, was Mayu Iwatani versus Natsu Sumire.
Oh, okay. Sumire, traditionally not very good.
Yeah, well, it was... When I say it was a really good match, it was just... I found it entertaining. It stood out because they did something different, right? In an attempt to get the count-out victory, Sumire took her all the way out to the street. Right, and the cameras followed, and the young girls followed, and out to the street, knocked her out, left her in the middle of the street, ran back into the arena, piled up chairs in the entryway to to make it so that when she came back in through the front door, she couldn't get in. But she came in through the back door, and so Sumire is standing there celebrating, watching the entryway, being like, "Ha, I've won, it's over." And then Mayu Iwatani slides in the back, and we don't know how she got back in the arena, but she did, and she slides in the back, and she pops up from behind, and it was just one of those really cool moments, and moments in wrestling are what it's all about for me, and it stood out because it was so different. Trying to get a count out by leaving the person unconscious outside the arena, it sticks in your memory,
I might have to watch that.
Yeah, it was fun.
I
haven't
had time to watch a lot of the 5-star. The show before that started, the Stardom X Stardom show, was the debut of one of the main players in the other block, Block B. Now I've got to pronounce her name, which is Utami Hayashishita.
Utami Hayashishita, yes.
I'm not good with the surname there. There's too many many vowels. Syllables. There's too much going on. I'm just going to call her Utami, and I'm sure everyone will be fine with that. Utami made her professional wrestling debut like a month ago and is already being treated like a big deal. So she's one of the big players in B block, along with like Jungle Kiona, Kagetsu, and to a lesser extent like Tam Nakano. Yeah, Utami had one of the best debuts I've seen in a while. Unless you count that tag at WrestleMania that Ronda Rousey had, I think it's like the best debut match this year. I don't know if you saw it. It was with Jungle Kiona, went to time limit draw.
Well, you telling me that she's only been wrestling for a month, that shocks me. That there's no way that's accurate. She only had her first professional match a month ago?
Yep.
I'm going to fact check you on that. There's no way. Because she's been very impressive throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, if you look back, I'm going to try to find it. So, Stardom X Stardom was on the 12th of August. And the Jungle Kiona Utami match, that was her debut. That was her first match.
Wow. I can't even find her in Cage Match.
That's because she's not on Cage Match yet, because she only just debuted.
That's insane. Well, there you go. That's highly impressive. Now I understand why you had her in the run sheet for what we need to talk about. If she's only been wrestling a month, because she had a match, it was one of the matches that I thought stood out, but because I was like, I'm only going to come in with the one recommendation, and I made that recommendation the match that stood out the most. Yeah. But she's had a couple of really good matches. Let me have a look. Her match with Kimberly Kimberly is always entertaining.
Yeah, but if it feels like she's come out of nowhere, it's because she literally has come out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I'd never heard of her before, but
that is something that does happen in Japanese wrestling, because you get guys who wrestle for smaller promotions and they kind of guest in a promotion that you watch regularly, and it's like, oh, who's this? And then you find out they've been wrestling for like 15 years in the grimy underground, like in Osaka or something like that. But Utami is just literally hot off the press, as it were. She's had like a handful of matches. But they must have a lot of faith in her, because they threw her straight into the 5-star GP.
Yeah, and in off days when she doesn't have a tournament match, she's been tagging with Momo as well. So
yeah, she doesn't.
That's interesting. She's going to be one to watch.
Oh yeah, I think so. When somebody's that good, like straight away, that's usually a flag that they're going to be special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was everything that I wanted to talk about. It was just the 5-star Grand Prix. I'm not completely up to date. They've done. I think I've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6 shows. I think so far.
7. I've got 7 here. Yeah, but 2 of them were on the same day, so that might be where the confusion is. But
yes,
I've watched.
I just clicked on the page and was like, "Oh yeah, there we go." Yeah, 7.
Yeah, so I've watched 5 of them, and so yeah, but so I've still got a bit of catching up to do. But it's been very entertaining. It's different from the G1. They tend to have shorter matches.
Yeah,
it's not as epic, but it's still really good wrestling. And I highly recommend anyone who's Stardom World is one of the cheaper subscriptions as well. I can't remember exactly. I think it costs me like $7 Australian roughly. So whatever that translates to. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially this month when they've got this tournament going on.
All Japan also got a tournament going on, but I think I also haven't had a chance to dip into that. But they're doing the I forget what it's called, Royal Road or Udo tournament that hasn't started yet.
Yeah, well, we talked about it's tournament season over there, so there's tournaments all over the place. Because DDT have a tournament as well at the moment, or just wrapped up.
Oh, King of DDT. I completely forgot about that. This is the thing. There's so much.
Yeah,
going on.
I haven't had a chance. I still haven't even finished the Tokyo Princess Cup, so I'm still planning on going back and getting to that. But I haven't watched anything that DDT have put up this month at all. So there's just so much wrestling out there at the moment, and yeah, when you're even just talking about just Japan, like it could be a full-time job watching all the wrestling that occurs in Japan.
Yeah, there's an awful lot. Did you want to talk about because Oedo Tai have had a particularly interesting little wrinkle in their booking in Stardom?
Yes, Hana Kimura, shockingly, has seemingly turned on Oedo Tai. But it could just be a setup for the match with Kagetsu, and then they're going to be okay, like they'll hug it out or something, like, because they've had little wrinkles like this before.
They've had issue. To me, it's a very interesting story, and it goes back a while. I don't know if you saw the when they were selecting like members for the teams, and basically Kagetsu was in charge of it. And afterwards, she looked like super happy. Like, look at the phenomenal team I've put together. And Hana Kimura was just sulking in the corner because she's like, look at the state of this. Like, she didn't want Hazuki in there, and she definitely didn't want Martina in there. And the way that they behave together, it's very much like it's almost like a relationship. They're a tag team, but they're also like, they have those parental roles within the group. And Mama's not happy. She's upset.
I like that you've made Kagetsu daddy, because Kagetsu is such a daddy. I'm just saying. But I actually have something that I'm going to throw out there that you're going to hate. I'm going to throw it out there, and it's a off the wall, probably not ever happening. But the Bullet Club OGs have talked about. They've talked about recruiting. It's recruiting season. For Tama Tonga, he's talked about it's recruiting season. Now, I know you're not a huge fan. That's fine. But they explicitly said, because they asked for names, and people started throwing them all these men's wrestlers' names. And they're like, gender doesn't come into it, yo. Like, we'll take women. We want women as well. So they're actively recruiting women. Now, I know for the most part, the Bullet Club tend to be gaijin, foreigners, and what have you. But could we see a Bullet Club Stardom?
God, I hope not.
Could Hana Kimura be the catalyst for that?
I really hope not. That sounds dreadful.
I love it. I think it would be fantastic, because it automatically brings more eyes. That's the way I look at it, is if people are like, wait, there's a women's Bullet Club now? I need to see this, you know?
Yeah, I can't see that happening. They have completely different ownership, so you wouldn't get the licensing for the crossover, for starters.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the business of or politics of Japanese wrestling or any of that, but it's just an idea that I had, and I was like, that would be amazing if it was happening.
I think it's more likely they'd tie it in with Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor has the same, that they're part of the same group, so they'd be able to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is too, in the Ring of Honor Women of Honor division, they use a lot of the Stardom girls.
I could fight against them probably, but like I would say it's more likely to be someone with non-Japanese heritage.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. It was just an idea that I wanted to throw out there. But with Hana Kimura turning on Kagetsu, I mean, do we think it's permanent, or do we think it's just, you know, they're going to have a little bit of a tiff and then they'll go?
It's hard to say. I'm interested to see where they go with it, because obviously Hana has been frustrated with the direction that Kagetsu has been taking Oedo Tai. So that does open up like a bit of a doorway to a permanent split. But there's also a suggestion that they really do care about each other. So I don't know. It could be quite the blood feud though if they start getting into it, because Hana has done that elsewhere, and it's been great. Like when she gets into that mean-spirited kind of swine.
Right. Well, I'm interested to see if that's the way it goes, but I'm kind of hoping it's going to be a short-lived thing, because I don't know. I look at, because Oedo Tai are getting over huge as well. They're kind of like the female LIJ almost in terms of their connection.
Yeah. I think the thing is they had that with when Tam was in the group. They kind of had that, and Tam was like the baby sister, and they were kind of bringing her up. And then she lost a match and had to leave. That was very emotional. So yeah, it's hard to having the group like splinter at the top when they're at possibly their creative peak almost would be I don't know. I think it'd be a bit strange. But stranger things have happened. They might have something incredible in mind. They may want to form a new stable and base it around Hannah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I think it might be going, but I'm definitely curious to see where it goes because it caught me off guard. It took me by surprise. I saw a spoiler, so it didn't take me by surprise when I was watching it, but when I saw the spoiler, I was like, oh, whoa, I did not expect that to be happening. So, and that's always good when wrestling can do that.
I find that happens less in Japan, which is a kind of a good thing because when it does happen, it's more important. So you have the Vince Russo mentality of shock swerves on every show, and then it's no longer shocking. Whereas in Japan, they spread these things out. Things do not happen for months. The status quo is the same, and then something shocking happens. Like, for example, the Bullet Club.
Yeah, well, it's reflective of the culture as well. It's a more conservative culture, so they're going to be more conservative with the way they tell their stories.
I think Gedo has had a hand in that for the kind of westernized booking in New Japan. So when it does happen there, it feels like that's the motivation behind it. Although there is more of a history behind it in Japan with groups just becoming disgruntled with the status quo and therefore becoming like a heel unit within a promotion or moving to join another one. There's always the chance that every promotion in Japan will at some stage splinter into multiple different promotions because it's happened before.
Yeah, it's happened a lot. It's happened a lot throughout Japanese wrestling history. But bringing it back, there was something. The other big thing that I wanted to mention was the Kenta return. Kenta returned to Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah for Marufuji's anniversary.
Yes,
that occurred this month.
I haven't seen that yet. It's
yes, no. So that's what I wanted to. I wanted to just make sure that we put it out there that it did happen. Neither of us have watched it, unfortunately.
He came back for Naomichi Marufuji's 20th anniversary show, so he wanted a special opponent, and they've kind of got a working arrangement with WWE. So they rang him up, went, can we borrow Kenta for this show? Well, technically he did wrestle as Hideo Itami as well, so he was in full WWE regalia. But because they were running a big show in a big venue, they kind of needed a big draw for it. So they ran Sumo Hall, and they had over 6,000 in attendance, and most of that was because they got Hideo Itami to come over.
Nice. At the end of it, I saw Marufuji was making some comments of, I'll have to return the favor and come over and wrestle on one of your shows kind of thing. So he's like throwing it out there that if Triple H wants to book me, he can, which I thought was interesting.
It would be surprising, but then in this day and age, these things do happen. He did.
I mean, Jushin Thunder Liger came over just randomly for a one-off match against Tyler Breeze. What was that? It never mentioned again, but
that was literally just one of these.
So it could happen.
Can we borrow Liger? And Liger's like, "Oh, please let me go wrestle in America." It was like him coming full circle and finally getting a chance to wrestle for WWE. So
yeah, it was just so odd though. But so we know that something like this is not necessarily completely out of the realm of possibility, and Marufuji's thrown it out there. I'll come over.
If Itami was
it makes it.
If Itami was still in NXT, that would make more sense. It being 205 Live, I'm not sure they'd want to do it there because those crowds will probably not know who Marufuji is, or percentage-wise, you've got a better shot at popping like an NXT crowd. So yeah, if they were going to do it, I would hope it was in NXT, and I don't know, they could do a tag match because they're a great tag team, always have been. I try to think what tag teams are in NXT.
Yeah,
Machine Man.
Do you think it would it have to involve Hideo Itami, or could it be a random situation like the Jushin Thunder Liger one? Like just randomly, we don't have an opponent for Johnny Wrestling, so Marufuji.
It would certainly be unexpected.
I don't know. I like the idea. I like the idea of him coming over. I honestly, I like the idea of Itami going back to NXT even. On our WWE podcast, we talked about, we hoped against hope that him going over for this Noah return would have him come back as Kenta, because WWE have kind of changed their tune on the whole.
They seem to change their mind on that stuff on a person by person basis. So they had Nixon Newell go over there and change her name to Stephanie Newell, and then decided they didn't like that and changed it to Tegan Knox. But some of them are better. Like Tommy End is not a good name, whereas Alistair Black is. So it's like sometimes it gets upgraded. Killian Dane's a great name.
It's a good name, yeah. Yeah, but then you get things like, Donovan Djokovic.
Yeah, there's swings and roundabouts, I guess.
But yeah, so that's pretty much everything I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Do you remember
with what's happened this month?
Do you remember I got very excited that Takeshi Morishima was going to make a comeback?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good job I didn't bother looking at the date of the event because the show's fallen through. He's got arthritis in his foot. He's going to need surgery, and like his comeback has been postponed. So that was the end of that story.
So we had this big, because we talked about that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, we talked about that for like 20 minutes.
We told the whole story, and now forget about it. It's not happening. Yeah, that's always.
This is the kind of thing that happens in wrestling sometimes. But if he had have come back, it would have been fascinating. But as it stands,
but he is still coming back. It's just going to be further down the line.
Right? Yeah, it was kind of weird the way it was cancelled. So I honestly don't know.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, if it's just a delay, I mean, I guess we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll keep our eyes out to see if he's coming back. But I forgot there was one other thing as well. You wanted to talk about the Takayamania.
Oh yeah, sorry, I completely forgot. This was the show. It was called Takayamania Empire. It was booked by Minoru Suzuki. He basically wanted to help raise funds for Yoshihiro Takayama, who's been in hospital since May of last year. Got paralyzed on literally taking a drop kick. It was one of the most innocuous spots I've ever seen. But yeah, he hasn't been able to move since. So Suzuki's put a show on to help raise funds, and I believe there'll be more to come. But it was a lovely combination of talent that he pulled together with Fortune Dream, which is like Kenta Kobashi's promotion that he books shows like twice a year. He'll pull together wrestlers from different promotions and create these really weird looking cards. Like Suzuki did that, but like on a level hitherto undreamed of. I want to give you some examples here. The first match, well, there was a battle royal, but then the first match was Takeshi Sugiura and Meiko Satomura against Hikaru Sato and Chihiro Hashimoto. So he pulled together like Satomura, her ace from her company, and then threw them in with Noah's like current champion and a junior from All Japan, which was just very thrown together. Worked superbly well. Lovely match. But then the second match was Yun Akiyama and Dick Togo against Takayo Omori, so Akiyama's best mates, basically, and Danshiko Dino. So they threw Dino in there opposite Akiyama.
Okay.
And it was like Akiyama having to do comedy spots and like doing like dick spots in a match was just bizarre. What the hell is going on here? And this is
this was Bizarro World Puroresu.
And the whole show was kind of along those lines. There was the New Japan match where they had the rookies in there, but the match I really want to talk about was two. The secondary main event was Shuji Ishikawa Yuji Hino and Hirashima. So you've got Ishikawa, who's kind of a freelancer, Hino, who is sort of a freelancer as well, but currently works for All Japan, and Hirashima from DDT. And they wrestled against Suwama, Ryota Hama, who's that gigantic sumo guy, and a Kazuzada Higuchi. So you've got an All Japan guy, a Big Japan guy, and a DDT guy. And there was an awful lot of big guys in there. So like Hirashima's the only normal sized wrestler, all the rest of them are just huge. And Hama makes like some of the huge guys look small because he's so enormous. He's just like a beach ball with legs. But that whole match was just an absolute riot. I highly recommend you watching it. I'm just scrolling through notes and I've got a GIF of Hino chopping Hama and him just kind of absorbing them with his blubberiness. Lovely.
We get a good shot of the jiggle.
Like you wouldn't believe. Yeah.
It's mesmerizing.
So there was that. That was the best match on the show. But also the main event had Minoru Suzuki tagging with Nozoru Rongai and Mazada, who are two guys who are basically juggalos, and I don't care about them in any way, shape, or form, against Taiyo Kaya, Shuji Kondo, and Taka Michinoku. And I was like, why is this the main event?
Yeah.
And then Minoru Suzuki spent the entire match torturing Taka Michinoku, who's his teammate in Suzuki-gun.
Yeah.
And the fire that Taka showed in his comebacks in this match, it was like watching the guy from 20 years ago. It was incredible performance from him. Just turn back the clock. So that's also kind of recommended. I won't be listing it down, but if you want to see like an amazing Taka Michinoku match from 2018, then that's the one for you.
Right. That's unexpected, to be honest with you.
Yes, it was very unexpected. I was watching it.
Of course, he's capable, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sound like something you'd expect. So I guess that's what this show was about then. Things that you don't expect.
It was off the wall. It was fun, and it just flew by. Like I sat and watched it, and I was like, "Is it the main event already?" We just flew by.
That's amazing. And so, as far as match recommendations, what do you have for us for this month plus?
I have not included anything from New Japan, and I haven't really finalised anything from September, so it's just going to be here's my 5 to watch from August. So I've got All Japan had a tag team tournament for the juniors. On that was Shuji Kondo and Kotaro Suzuki, Kondo from Wrestle One, against Masaaki Mochizuki and Shun Skywalker, both from Dragon Gate. And that was a fascinating clash of styles and promotions just kind of colliding beautifully together there. Also, Pro Wrestling Noah had a great title match between Takeshi Sugiura and Go Shiozaki. They just beat each other to a pulp. That was on August the 18th. That was one of their big shows this year for Noah. Also in All Japan, I'd like to throw out a recommendation for Violent Giants against Yoshiken. Yoshiken being the Yoshitatsu and Kenta Miyahara tag team. I'd highly recommend that. If you don't believe what I'm saying about how good Yoshitatsu has been in All Japan, that's probably the match to demonstrate it best. Obviously, Takeda, his match with Miyamoto that we talked about at the top, that was from August the 19th. That comes heavily recommended. And the match I just mentioned from Takayamania, the trios match, Ishikawa, Hino, Hirashima against Suwama, Hama, and Higuchi.
Right.
And
awesome.
I've just realised there's one that I missed. There was, the Strong Hearts, the guys from Dragon Gate that have basically invaded Wrestle One.
Okay.
Shima and all these guys with the monks.
Yeah, T-Hawk and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a shot at the tag titles in Wrestle One, and that match is tremendous. It's T-Hawk and El Lindemann challenging for the champions were Shuji Kondo and Koji Doi. Koji Doi, who I've been following since like he debuted in Wrestle One, has gone from being just this ordinary looking kid to just being this stack of meat with a chest like 3 miles wide. It's just been an astonishing bodybuilding experience just to watch him develop over the past couple of years. But he's great in that match, so everyone's great in that match.
All right. And I will add to that, of course, as I mentioned, Mayu Iwatani versus Natsu Sumire from the night show on the 26th of the 8th. And I will put all of these in the show notes. I like to only come with one because really you're the guy who watches all of it. And so you're the more trustworthy voice here. So if people want to, but if you want to see a good Joshi match as well, I definitely recommend that one and all of the 5-star Grand Prix. Really, I've had a really good time watching what I have watched. But that does it for us here on this month in Puroresu. Where can people find you, Arnold?
Well, if they're so inclined, they can go on to Twitter and find me at Arnold Furious. If you want to read reviews of any of the matches that I've talked about, and I think I reviewed all of them, bar maybe one, they're on rearviewreviews.com. And this month we're doing a month of Minoru Suzuki matches.
An entire month where all you're reviewing is Minoru Suzuki?
No, we're doing other reviews as well, but basically I was trying to have like a Minoru Suzuki match like reviewed every day, and I missed one, so
okay.
Like mostly every day.
Yeah, those little personal challenges are what makes this stuff worth it. I set myself a personal challenge to do an entire month of podcasts, and we've just passed that. So I've had a couple of days off since, but yeah, I did an entire month of a podcast a day.
Sounds exhausting,
and it was actually really fun. I actually really enjoyed it.
I was on,
but yeah, I definitely appreciated the days off.
I was on a Pro Wrestling Torch podcast with Alan Forel last night, and my voice is going now just having done that last night and this today.
Yeah. No, this was an hour a day for a full month. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, that's heaps good. So people can find you on PW Torch. People can find you now on PW Torch as well.
That's on their paid area anyway. That one, it's basically I was guesting on Alan Forel's podcast.
That's pretty cool. Well, I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram, and we collectively can be found at the B Plus Wrestle, the B Plus Wrestling on Facebook, the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit for whatever reason. Twitter, man, I just don't get Twitter. I really don't get it. Everywhere else we are the B Plus Wrestling. And if you want to leave us a 5-star review, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, it really helps us out. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag!
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list!
Oh my God!
So, now speak English.
Dummy!
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it! Dummy!
Hold three. The moss covered.